Build your own Bluetooth system for less than $5. Of course, you know what a Bluetooth system consists of. You have some sending device like a phone or an iPad or a computer, and you have music on it, and you use Bluetooth to transmit that music to a device that plays it through a speaker, actually 2 speakers for stereo. These can be old bookshelf speakers that you might have lying around, or bookshelf speakers of just about any size and type that you could find economically at Goodwill or Salvation Army. But what's in the system unit? How does it take the Bluetooth signal and turn it into audio to drive speakers? I'll show you where to get the parts and how to build your Bluetooth sound system for less than $5. And I'm not kidding. My name is Jim Janessi, Sr. I've made this video to let you see how simple it is to make one of these systems and how inexpensive it is. While the system as a whole includes the sending device, the system unit that drives the speakers, and the speakers themselves, let's assume that you already have the sending device and some speakers. I'll show you how to build the missing piece, the system unit that receives and decodes the Bluetooth transmission and provides it to the speakers. This is the heart of the system. The system I'm talking about is a small device that's powered by a phone charger and connected to 2 traditional bookshelf speakers of the type that you can find very inexpensively at thrift stores these days if you don't already have a pair yourself. Just to note, this video is content complete in the text. It's easiest to create tutorials just by showing and talking, and that's fun, but really it doesn't meet the needs of everyone. I taught college for over 30 years, and in that endeavor, you really need to reach every student, and some people don't hear well. Besides that, studies have shown that many people need to get new knowledge in multiple modes. That is, seeing diagrams, hearing it, and reading it. And since I need to prepare notes anyway to do a complete lesson, I create animated slides and narrate them for this kind of show and tell. I'm mostly just reading what's on the slides. So if you're reading this and you can't hear me speak, you won't lose anything. Even if you do understand what I'm saying by hearing it, you'll find review of this material much easier. So I hope you enjoy this, quote, lesson, unquote. It's really kind of a fun process to build one of these things. So again, the question, what's in a Bluetooth system? Well, there's a sending device of your choice on which you have some form of audio, and that is going to be transmitted to some device that will turn it into sound, typically stereo sound, a left channel speaker and a right channel speaker. So what's in this big blue thing in the middle? What is a Bluetooth system that's going to drive some external speakers? Now, many of you are familiar with Bluetooth already, and you might have either a small portable Bluetooth unit or a large kind of a boombox unit that your phone transmits to. What I'm talking about is something that is smaller than that and is not portable. It's powered by a phone charger. It sits on a shelf, and it's on all the time. It doesn't have a volume control because you control what music is played and its volume with your sending device. And you, of course, control what music that device is sending to your Bluetooth system. Well, let's take a look inside. Inside any Bluetooth system unit is going to be a Bluetooth receiver which understands the transmission, that is, the very high-frequency transmission that's taking place from the sending device to the system, and it's going to transform that signal, that is, decode it, into a left channel and a right channel audio. And since that signal will be weak, typically enough to power a headphone, but not enough for speakers. So an audio amplifier of some type is needed to drive a left channel speaker and a right channel speaker. And both these circuits need power, which in the case of the system will come from a common cell phone charger. Let's take a look at these circuits in particular to see what they look like. The 2 components in this case are both mounted on printed circuit boards, and they're both rather small. The Bluetooth receiver circuit receives the radio signal and decodes it into left and right channel audio. The amplifier circuit receives that weak audio signal and magnifies it to a power level sufficient to drive speakers. Here's a comparison of both circuits to a common US coin, a credit card, and rulers measured off in inches and centimeters. And you can see they're both very tiny. The receiver here on the left and the audio amplifier on the right. In fact, neither one is much larger than a common postage stamp. The Bluetooth receiver we're going to be using is identified as VHM-314. The stereo amplifier uses a chip PAM8403. Those are just technical designations. They just identify the part. There's no magic in what the name means. The Bluetooth receiver just provides 5 connections. There's a place for the audio signal to come out, left channel, ground, and right channel. And there's a place where a phone charger can be plugged in to provide the power. This particular circuit also has a very handy set of connection points where the power coming in can be shared with the amplifier, and that simplifies the wiring a bit. Let's take a look at the audio amplifier. The 3 signal points from the Bluetooth decoder enter the amplifier, the left channel, ground, and the right channel audio inputs, and the power enters, and you see those described here. There's also 2 terminals for the left channel speaker and 2 for the right channel speaker. You'll notice there's no volume control on this device because the volume is always regulated by the sending device, that is your cell phone or computer or iPad. That's where you would want to control the volume because that's where you control the entire functioning of the sound system. Now, what about circuit costs? I recommend shopping around on eBay, and you'll find that different vendors of the same thing have vastly different prices. In fact, shopping around for these 2 circuits produces some astounding examples of this and some extremely economical buys. Let's take a look first at the Bluetooth circuit, which in this case is called an audio receiver board. Here we see 3 offerings in the range of $1.79 to $1.80, and all of them have free shipping. This is what you want to look for. On the other hand, you'll come across some things that may appear to be okay, that is economical, but look at the first one, $1.79 but $4.60 shipping. So what's the total cost here? A lot more than $1.79. How about free shipping but a much higher stated price? Why would you want to buy this? Well, you wouldn't, unless you didn't know any better, because you can buy the same thing at less cost from another vendor. And the same thing on the third item, free shipping but a high price. So you have to be diligent when you shop for things on eBay. There are many vendors selling the same thing in most cases. You want to try the buy now listings, not the auctions, unless you want to go through an auction process and perhaps gain the part or perhaps lose it. But these parts are inexpensive enough. The buy now option is just fine. Let's take a look at the audio amplifier. And here's a typical site listing this part. And there's a couple of interesting things about this. First of all, notice that the price stated is for 5 of these circuits, not just 1. Some people buy them to manufacture a number of these devices. You may want to make just 1. Note here the cost is for 5 units, and it's stated in Canadian dollars. In US dollars, this would be somewhat less expensive. Instead of $2.43, in this case, $1.93. So what is the total cost here of one of these amplifiers from this particular vendor? Well, it turns out it's 48 cents, as you can see on the screen. Now, if you went with this vendor to buy just one of them, you'd have 4 extra, and your cost for the part would still be trivial, $1.93. And what could you do with the other 4? Well, give them away or sell them. They're just surplus to your needs at this point. But you may encourage others to build one of these too. For example, this is an excellent way to introduce kids to some STEM, that is science, technology, engineering, and math concepts. If you combine this with a little bit of lessons on electricity, by the way, if you want to do that, you'll find some excellent videos by others here on YouTube. Now, the assembly of this is really simple. I just took a piece of wood that I had laying around, about 3 inches by 4 inches, and I glued the 2 parts placed as you see in this illustration. I also glued in place 2 speaker connectors, which you see red and white here. Let's take a look at a simple wiring diagram that illustrates how these 2 circuits are connected. There are 9 connections between these parts, There's 3 connections for the audio and 2 power connections between the Bluetooth decoder, the VHM-314, and the amplifier, and there are 4 connections to the speakers. That is, 2 connections to each speaker. Let's take a look at the wiring in more detail. In this diagram, you'll see that the power connections take the form of the phone charger feeding power into the VHM-314 and it sharing the power connection with the amplifier using the red and black lines. The audio output, that is the weak audio output from the VHM-314 Bluetooth decoder, goes to the inputs of the amplifier. In this case, the right channel signal is carried by a green wire and the left channel signal is carried by a purple wire. The brown wire leading from the VHM-314 to the amplifier is considered the low side or the ground of the audio signal. And this carries through in the color of the wires you see carrying the output audio signal to the left and the right channel speakers. This is the way you'd want to connect wires in constructing your Bluetooth system unit. But you'll notice here the comments end with a star in the last line on the indication of black for the ground wire. I want to pursue that just as a matter of safety. I'll read you the comment. It's really quite important in case you ever consider dealing with the wiring common in houses. As a matter of safety, make sure that you know that electronic wiring and house wiring may differ greatly in their color coding of power lines. In electronics coding, black is ground, negative, and is usually wired to the chassis or case of the device. In house wiring, however, the black wire is often the hot lead, analogous to the positive red line here, and white is ground. What this means is, if you considered that the black wire was relatively benign in electronics wiring, don't carry that idea over to house wiring. Just a note in case you deal with that type of wiring at some point. Let me assure you, however, that in wiring the small device we're considering here, that is the Bluetooth system unit, there is absolutely no dangerous current involved in this. The only electricity present in the device is from a common phone charger, which outputs 5 volts DC, that is 5 volts direct current. This low amount of voltage, in other words, electrical pressure, has no ability to shock anyone. In fact, it's on par with 3 common flashlight batteries that you might otherwise have laying around the house. In any construction project I would ever undertake, I would plan on using a phone charger as the power supply. The only reason I included this comment is I personally have had the experience of carrying over the idea of the black wire being the safe one in attempting a little bit of house repair. The consequences were, let's say, shocking. Since I'm experienced with electronic assembly, I attended and completed the Air Force Technical School in Ground Radio Communications in Biloxi, Mississippi, as a part of National Guard training a long, long time ago. So I know how to solder parts together, and I've soldered the wires in this case. But if you're not skilled in soldering, and soldering irons get hot, and you can get burned by them, or solder can flip off of it and burn you, or worse, perhaps damage an eye. If you don't want to deal with soldering, check back later. I'm planning a video showing how to assemble this kind of a unit without the need for a soldering iron at all. Now about the speaker connections, here's a side view of my assembly, and you'll notice I have what are called RCA jacks, one for each speaker. These are 2 connector jacks that are quite common and quite inexpensive, and cables with these jacks on them are also inexpensive on eBay. I use these and I hook them up to speakers with these cables because it's easier to connect them this way. Some speakers require wire terminals, in which case you can cut a connector off one end of the cable and wire it to the speaker. I go to the bother of wiring my speakers with these connectors also, making it very easy to set up and change speakers because I experiment with them a lot. Here's another view yet, And I wanted to point out a very, very handy thing about this VHM-314 circuit. It provides a micro USB connector. So once you've assembled the unit, you just plug in a phone charger to this micro USB connector on the Bluetooth circuit. When you plug that charger in, your system will be on, and the blinking light will show you, as well as a sound signal, when the device is on and when it's achieved a connection to a sending Bluetooth device. That is, to a device that sends a signal to the Bluetooth circuit and has been paired with it. The VHM-314 is set to be visible to nearby devices, and on your transmitting device, if you make it visible to surrounding devices, this device will pair with it, and the circuit will beep loudly when the connection is made. Now, I've got more videos in the works and coming. For example, building this Bluetooth system with a volume control so you can set a loudness limit. I think that's really kind of handy, especially if you're a parent and your child is going to be using this. It would be unpleasant for them to run the volume up to max on the sending device and blast out of the speakers so loudly that you'd want to do something about it. So with the volume control, which another video will show you, you can set a loudness limit so even when run up to max on the sending device, the speakers will not be any louder than you would want them to be at maximum volume. I've got another video coming showing you how to create a no soldering required kit to make this system, typically for kids 10 and older to assemble. I think it gives a kid a real sense of satisfaction to be able to say to his or her pals, look what I built. And since it's a practical device that he or she is deriving use from, it really goes over well as impressing the pals, and perhaps your kid can help them build some additional systems like this for an even better feeling. And you can combine this with some STEM and electricity concepts very easily. People are eager to learn when they see some actual outcome resulting from that learning. I also am planning a couple of videos on how to build a replica old-time radio that is actually an MP3 player that looks like an old-time radio, that really plays old-time shows and music that you bring down from the web from one source or another. This kind of a device is great as a gift to an older person who might like to hear that music, and it might stimulate memories of days long gone by. I actually make these and donate them to people in retirement and convalescent homes. It really is a boost to some older people who are confined in their living space. Well, I hope you enjoyed this build-it-yourself video. If you'd like to see more of these videos, please hit me with a like on this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Here is my email address in case you'd like to contact me about any problems or perhaps would like to suggest the topic of a future build-it-yourself video. Until next time, goodbye and thanks for watching.